Now the type mask tool should have been named the type selection tool in the way it works, but to call it a masking tool is okay too because that's the process by which it functions. But this tool allows you to do some very creative things with text. Now I'm going to take you through the entire process of demonstrating one way in which you might use this tool in order to get your creative juices flowing. Now pay very close attention to this process, even though part of this demonstration will go into other areas of Photoshop functionality that we may or may not have covered yet. And I'm doing this to also show you how things work together in Photoshop. Now the analogy is that what I'm going to show you is now very much like showing you how to make the sauce that goes on the main dish, for those of you like me who are addicted to the Food Network. Now, also be aware that I do all my Photoshop work with high-res 16-bit images with huge file sizes, so I will truncate the actual processing times so you don't get bored on this movie. Now when you do your work on high-res images, it'll slow your computer down to a degree, so have patience when you start doing this on your own images. So here we go. Now the type masking tool is located right here in the drop-down list, third down. Now whatever I show you for horizontal is equally applicable for vertical. They function exactly the same way. So let's go ahead and choose it. But before we actually start putting text on the image, I have established two copy layers rather, on this texture image, and I'm a texture junkie. I take texture shots everywhere I go, and I've got a huge library of textures, and we're going to use this one to prepare for our masking type tool, or type masking tool. So let's go ahead and begin, and we'll come up to filter, and we'll go down to blur, and we'll come down to motion blur, and we're going to apply this rather extreme setting on here. Hit OK. And next I'm going to bring in a plugin. I'm going to go down to Nix Software Color Efex Pro, and I really want to bring out the, not so much detail, but a lot of contrast. I want to instill a lot of contrast and texture. I want to beef the texture up for this particular result. Now Nix Software is a very, very good plugin for Photoshop. I strongly encourage you to consider it. I personally think it's worth every nickel you spend on it. It's not that expensive. So here we've boosted the detail extractor all the way up to almost as far as it'll go. The contrast has been punched, and of course the saturation is punched. And you can look at the difference, and you can obviously see what we're going for here. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK and let this process complete. And now that that's completed, I'm going to come over to the layers palette. I'm going to choose layer 1 copy, and I'm going to remove it because I don't need it anymore. So I'm going to remove that, go back to the top layer, come to my blend modes, and let's just go through a couple of these and see what kind of result we get. That's not terribly bad. Don't like that. That's getting close. Don't like that at all. Let's see what this does. No, don't like that either. Perfect. That's exactly what I'm looking for. I like that, high texture. Kind of a, I don't know how to describe it. I just like the way it looks. That's all I know to say. We're going to go ahead and flatten this image, and now we're going to begin the process of creating our type. So again, making sure we've got this chosen, and indeed we do. Come over here and just click on it. Nowhere in particular, just right there will do, and you'll see the mask that the name is derived from. Now I've got a type size of 128 points, and our font is Rockwell Extra Bold, which I like those thick, bold fonts for this application. So we'll go ahead and do that. And I'll just type the words Yosemite, and I want to do some work on this text. So let's come up to the character dialog box, and I want to stretch the image vertically like this. I want it to be a little taller, and the spacing is about right. It's kind of hard to see. You kind of have to guess at it. A little trial and error comes into play here just a bit, so we'll go ahead and do that. Click the move tool, and now I think that's looking just about right. Okay, now you'll notice we have a selection here as indicated by the marching ants. So what we're going to do is we're going to go Control J to place the text on its own layer above the texture layer, and you can see that right now. Everything else we do from this point forward is only going to be on this text layer. So let's double click to bring up the Layer Styles dialog box. First thing we're going to do is put a drop shadow on it, and let's go ahead and put the distance in, 100% opacity. There we go. And this is all done just on site. If you like the way it works, then good. Now, the next thing I'm going to put on here is a little bit of a bevel to give it some additional texture. Nope, don't want to do that. Don't want to do that. Let's just go back to the basic bevel adjustments. And then we'll do, let's try an inner glow and see what that looks like. We may be stacking just a little bit too much stuff on here, but it's not anything we can't undo. So let's, and I'm just adjusting, just looking at things. Let's go ahead and use that, say OK. Now our text is ready to be deposited on this image here. So we come around, we undock it. Get the move tool, hold down the shift key, left click, hold it down, drag it into this image, and I think you see where we're going with this. We're going to put this right here, and then of course I would go forward and put a plain national park text underneath this Yosemite banner, but there's no need to do that because you've seen that before. So it would just be a matter of coming over and choosing this, clicking on it, and then establishing the national park text underneath the banner Yosemite. So there you have a demonstration of how this type masking tool works and what you can do with it. And this is only one of an infinite number of variations that you can bring to bear when using the type masking tool in Photoshop CS6.